Emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope.
Oh, that's much better.
Edit all the blather out of your videos because my time is very precious.
Oh, that's fire.
Make it less teal and more
Cerulean? Sure.
Replace your background with something more fun? The cold void of outer space.
Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope.
It needs more style. It needs more clips, more gifs, more. Well, I might have made it too gnarly.
What is up, Marcelo?
How we doing, Aaron?
Ready for another Descript 101. How about you?
Another day, another session. Am I right?
Yeah, more so for you. But you're the expert, man. You can do this in your sleep.
I'm here. I have dreams about giving Descript demos, and here I am in real life doing it too.
Yeah, it's like the Tetris effect, but for webinars. You just dream about the webinars you give all day.
Absolutely.
To everybody joining, as you guys are logging in and figuring out, let us know where you're tuning in from and what your first project is going to be in Descript. Are you recording a podcast, doing a product demo, some internal trainings, voiceovers? What are you going to use Descript for? Because something got you to sign up and log in for today. So throw that in the chat. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and TikTok, and we can see all of those in one place. We'll also throw your questions up as we get into the demo and the nitty-gritty of navigating Descript. Marcelo, do you remember what was the first thing you edited or did in Descript?
Yeah, I was a freelancer at the time, and I found Descript because I was trying to edit a podcast that I did not think was super fun, but paid my bills. It was like a podcast about two dudes who were drinking IPAs and rating them, and I was like, how do I remove filler words because they keep saying like and all the time? And then I found Descript, and like 6 years later, here I am.
Yeah, the rest is history. now you see it in your sleep.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, let's get to the agenda as everybody is letting us know where you're tuning in from in the chat and what your first project is. We are going over the basics of video editing today. So I'm your co-host, Aaron, joined by Marcelo, the iconic Marcelo. Moderately caffeinated today, I am told.
only 4 coffees.
Yeah, that's light work for you on a Wednesday.
Truly.
So like we said before, we can see all of your questions and comments in the chat. Most people are on YouTube, but we'll also see them on LinkedIn and X. We are recording. If you dip out or miss part of this, you will get a follow-up email. It'll also live on our YouTube page. If you just want to go to YouTube and find any of these recordings, the whole session's always there. And one of the resources a lot of people find helpful is help.descript.com. If you want more of an article style explainer with screenshots of where buttons are, how to use a certain feature, there is a page there and you can just search for it. So that might be a helpful tab to have open or reference after this. So what are we doing today? Something we hear all the time from people is making videos is hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of skills. It takes fancy software. There's all these barriers to just making video, yet I know I need to make them. So what we're going to do is just live demonstrate how you can do that in Descript and know enough of the features and buttons to go start making videos that look good today. And then you can throw in questions. Hey, can you show me this? How would you do that? And Marcelo will demo those and we'll answer those on the live stream. So who's going to walk away from this and say, that was totally worth my time? If you're somebody who needs to make a video, but you're not an editor or a producer, or you're on a team, Marcelo and I get this all the time. Like, we have to make videos every day, but we're not video editors by trade. Okay. My team or my organization is delegating this stuff to me and I got to get it done. You're the perfect candidate for what we're learning about today. And you're going to walk away and go, oh, I know my way around. I know that I can edit videos by editing text, which is kind of mind bending until you see it if you haven't used a transcript-based editor. And you can get your videos exported on YouTube, downloaded, tweeted, whatever you're doing with those. And you don't need to be a video editor. So whether you're doing marketing, training, learning and development, editorial stuff, another big one, we just have to start doing social clips from the podcast or from the webinar. You're going to be able to crank those out and come up with a workflow that's repeatable and simple for you and not have to wait for the video editor, or maybe you don't even have one. So it's you, get to work. That's what Descript is for. And we don't want you to feel like you can't make good videos if you're by trade a salesperson or an L&D person. You can be cranking out great looking videos with one tool end to end, from recording to publishing. You won't have to change tabs or apps, and everybody can make videos. That's one of our goals, is like, we're all on the video team now. So we just got to get with the program. One of the interfaces most people are comfortable in is typing and editing a text-based document. Think Google Doc, Word file, Apple Note, Notion. Okay, I delete the word, I copy, paste, move it around. If you can do that, that's 90% of the video editing most people are doing, especially if it's talking head or screen share style. So are we ready, Marcelo, to crank it up? And like, how do I make better videos? What is a transcript-based editor? How's all this look?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been cool seeing this, a little overview, but let's get into the meat and potatoes.
All right, you are up.
Awesome. So we're jumping right into a Descript project. Here, what we're looking at is a utilized project with a recording of myself in here. We'll go over the regions of Descript, like Aaron mentioned, starting here on the left-hand side. We have our transcript here on the left. We have our scene editor here in the middle, and then our project tab, as well as some other actions on the right-hand side. But the first thing we want to talk about is, how did we get this content like into Descript, right? Like, how did this get here? So we can, with Descript, either record content directly in or import media. Here at the bottom of the screen, I have the option to record, and I can record myself with just my camera, or either my webcam or an external camera I have plugged in. I could do a screen recording if I'm doing maybe a product demonstration or, a review of metrics or whatever it might be. Here I can insert as a new layer even. Here I have the ability to record audio only. So if I just want the voiceover, let's say I've already recorded the the content and I just need to speak over that, I have audio only. And then finally, our remote recorder, or what we call rooms. This allows you to do like remote recording calls. So I could have myself and Aaron, interview remotely instead of being in the same place with a high fidelity recording. And again, we also have the ability to import media throughout a couple different ways. So on the right-hand side, just to show, under the project tab, we have this files section. And by clicking the plus button here by files, you have multiple ways of import. Now you could just drag and drop something in from your desktop. So like in this case, I recorded directly in, but if I recorded in another tool, I could always just drag and drop in from my computer, or here I can select where I'm importing from. So here I have options for a computer, for a newly released feature that we just put out, I'm really excited about, called Media Library, that's available. You can import from other projects that you maybe want to reference from last week's episode or something. And then here we also have the ability to import from mobile devices, or even import from other remote recorders like Zoom. So a couple of really cool options there. But yeah, that's how we get the information into Descript. Once that information is in Descript, whether it's recorded locally or it's been imported into Descript, we'll have on the left-hand side our transcription. So now let's get into like text-based and transcription editing. Here on the left-hand side, we have the automatic language detected and then dropped into our transcript area. So here it's automatically recognizing that I'm speaking English and dropping that here on the left-hand side. The cool thing with Descript is that, again, we're transcribing each word that someone says. And when that is transcribed, it's aligned with the video and audio underneath. So when I play this back, you'll see that like each word that I'm saying is highlighted as I say it.
Welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It All. Today, I'm super excited to dive into a tool that's going to change the way that you edit and record media.
Cool. So that allows like that syncing of exactly when I say a word allows us to do text-based editing. So now, like in this case, right, I say, welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It All. Let's say I want to jump like right into where I say, today I'm super excited to dive into a tool. So what I can do is I can select this text, I'll click delete on my keyboard, and now I've removed that section of the video. So now when I play back, I'm jumping right into when I say, today I'm excited. Drum roll.
Today, I'm super excited to dive into a tool that's going to change the way that you edit and record media.
Cool. So like bread and butter of Descript right there is text-based editing. It's making selections of text and like deleting it, copy and pasting it to other regions of the script, moving it around or rearranging it to your heart's content. It's where we got started, and is like, you know, again, like the thing that got me into wanting to use Descript, but that's like an extremely powerful tool where other tools might make you go into like a timeline editor or like, you know, try to parse what a waveform is just by looking at peaking or not. But yeah. Aaron, anything to add there? I know that's a mind blower for people that haven't seen it before, but yeah.
No, I think the beauty of it is you're editing video, no timeline, no waveform. Just here's the preview of the video on one side, the transcript on the other.
Absolutely. And if you didn't see what I just did here, like just because we're text-based editing, I can undo my action by clicking Command Z on my keyboard or the undo key up here on the top. This goes like right back to, again, like as easy to edit as text, right? If I've deleted some text, I'll undo that on my keyboard. Same thing here. I'm restoring that video. So now I changed my mind. I do want the welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It All back in there. So I've undid and we're back here. Cool. Let's look at some other text-based like editors. So here we've looked at just like selecting text and like removing some text. But let's say that something was transcribed incorrectly, right? Like my name is Marcelo. Sometimes I get transcribed as Marshmallow. We got to fix that, right? So how do we correct like a transcription issue? We have like a 99% accuracy rating, right? But like some proper nouns are not going to be, or like acronyms, right? Like I know AWS is one that it came out like ARE at WS. It was weird, whatever. But here's how to correct media or correct text. So here, when I make a selection to any word or group of words, I have this mini menu that appears above. There's a couple different options here. We'll see Underlord, our AI editing assistant. We'll see the ability to change the layout for a specific section. But towards the center here, I have correct. So here I can correct either one or multiple instances of the spelling of a word. Let's say my name is spelled with one L. Here I can adjust the spelling of that and then click correct one instance or all instances. And then here when I go to correct all, now similar to a Word doc, I have a find and replace style like correction tool. So at the top of the screen, I see that Marcelo is spelled with two L's 5 times. Here I'm going to change it to one L, right? And then I can either see on the right-hand side each instance of my name. And then I can choose to correct all or one instance. Let's say like, for whatever reason, one word is the correct spelling and another instance is not. Here I can choose to select one correction or all of them. But here I'll just correct all just for sake. And then again, if I wanted to change that, I can Command Z to undo that and I can still see those selections. But yeah, easy way to correct things in bulk. Now, one thing to mention that's really important is like the reason I need my transcription correct, you might have noticed, is that my captions here that we'll look at a little bit later on are 1-for-1 matching my transcription. So by making sure my transcription is correct, I'm also, for accessibility, making sure that my captions are correct when they are burned onto the video, as well as the embedded captions. So super, super important to make sure that like the text is correct so that it is displayed correctly on your video. Let's look at a couple of other options here. I showed that mini menu as well. So like, let's look at a couple things here. Here, just to skip over this, we'll come back to regenerate in a moment, but here's some other editing options on the side. These are more text-based editing options, like making something bold or italicizing it. Here we also have the ability to like highlight sections or comment. These are really good for collaborating with other individuals, right? Here I can make a selection and highlight something in yellow and then maybe comment and reach out to Aaron or maybe another member of my team and say, hey, should I cut this? Cut this for time? Can I type? Oh my gosh. Whoa. Cool. Yeah. Should I cut this for time? Anything like that? And then this, like, again, like a Word doc or a Google doc, I'm interacting back and forth with people on my team to, be able to adjust media or edit media. And then lastly, one thing that I love showing, is like the strike-through option here. So earlier I showed making a selection of text and then clicking delete on the keyboard to like remove something entirely. But when you delete something, I don't have the visibility of what was there, right? Let's say I'm collaborating back and forth with Aaron and I just removed that section of the video. Aaron doesn't see what was there, so they can't tell if that's something that they would want to keep or not. Instead of deleting entirely, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the strike through or the ignore button. If I hover my cursor above, I see the keyboard shortcut. But if I click strike through, now I see the text visibly, like here in the range, but I am going to skip over this on playback. So like to kind of tie all these features together, right? Like now here I have something that's highlighted in yellow that struck through. This is my kind of like Marcelo's suggestion to cut to Aaron. Then I can comment and say like, hey, Aaron, how does this look? And then here I can have, again, a comment thread back and forth. But here now, like when I play this back, it will skip over everything here and it'll jump right into where I say explains it all. Or let's just have it jump right into where I say today.
Today, I'm super excited to dive into a tool that's going to change the way that you edit and record media.
Cool. So a really, really, really great use case for like text-based editing and using text-based editing tools that we've seen in other places like strike-throughs, highlights, bold italicizing, commenting, all these things to tie together and show how I can like collaborate back and forth with someone in one project and do some basic edits to like, again, not just hide what was removed, but kind of like have this back and forth if I need to.
Yeah, Marcelo, what if you cut and paste the text in your transcript? What happens to the video and audio when you move that?
Great question. So like I said earlier, the text is like just another representation of the video and audio, right? So if I select this range, let's just say I like select this range of text where I say, welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It All, right? So this section here. If I copy this and I paste this, the original doesn't change at all, right? I'm not doing anything to the original time that I copy and pasted that. So the initial audio and video still persists. I'm just copying it and pasting it again into this other area. So now this will play twice, right? If I wanted to, I can like select this text and then delete. And now I've like moved this section of audio and video. But just because I'm copying and pasting something doesn't mean I'm altering the original audio and video. It's the text and the audio and video are one and the same. So by copy and pasting it, I'm just duplicating that to another section of my video. If I'm cutting it, I'm removing that entirely, right? And the same kind of thing, vice versa.
Yeah, basically, however it would handle a Word doc text edit, your video is just tied to it when you're moving things in a transcript. That was a great question.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think the main thing to remember that is that like your text is another way to visualize your audio and video. If you think about it, like, not to show the scary timeline, but like down here in the timeline, this is just another way to represent your video and audio, right? It's just like, it's a timeline. But here we have text to represent both like the timeline clip, the video clip. It's just another way to visualize it. But like Aaron mentioned, the same way that I would expect the behavior of a text document to work is how then I can perceive my video and audio to be edited.
Yeah, we had one more great question on the text while we're covering this from your website Made Easy on YouTube. Can you edit the text only and have it not change the audio and video?
That's absolutely possible. What we showed earlier with me changing the spelling of my name is changing the text, not the underlying video and audio, right? That's to make a text correction. So here, because I need my captions to be correct and I want to change like here the word Marcelo to Marcelo with one L, right? I'm changing the text, but I'm not changing the audio and video. I'm just changing the transcript itself, which is then changing the captions, but not like, the pacing or the speech of the video itself. I also, the last feature I wanted to show with text-based editing does, however, change the audio. Cool segue, whoever asked that question. Thank you. Put your Venmo in the chat. I'll drop you something. But here in this mini menu that appears above, the last thing I didn't touch on is in the center here of the link is regenerate. So if I click regenerate here, regenerate is one of our text-to-speech tools that allows you to alter the speech of what was said by the speaker. So here I can say, like, let's say here I said, welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It All. But my show is called Marcelo Explains It to You. And I was super nervous because I was in a studio and I can't go back to the studio. And what do? I can use the regenerate tool to change what I said in the video. So here, instead of Marcelo Explains It All, I'll select the word all, I'll click regenerate, and I'll change this to you. What regenerate is going to do is it is going to take my pre-trained AI voice and alter my speech. So it's going to remove the word all and put in to you in my AI voice. Let's play this back.
Welcome back to another episode of Marcelo Explains It To You. Today, I'm super excited to dive in.
Boom. So it replaced the word all with to you. So that last piece again, regenerate, really cool. You do one like quick word warning wise, you do have to have your AI voice trained to do this. You can't I can't just take Aaron's voice and say, all right, I'm going to make him say something different. Like I have to have Aaron read a consent statement saying that, he does solemnly swear that, to let Underlord recreate his voice in the style of whatever, right? There is like a security pass. We do have stock voices if you want to use like some stock AI voices. But again, just to get the security question out of the way, like you do have to have a training like script that you read to be able to do this feature. But once you do, like I can have my AI voice say whatever in my voice. I have full control of that. And if I run a podcast, I never have to do an ad read again. I have my AI voice do the ad reads forever. But yeah, don't tell anyone I said that. But yeah.
Beautiful.
Cool. Anything I missed for transcript editing? If not, I'd love to take a little peek at some Canvas editing and the AI tools on the right-hand side.
Oh, let's do it.
Tight. All right, cool. So we looked at the text-based editor here, and we looked at the mini menu that appears above anything that I'm selecting. I showed this mini menu because that persists across other areas of the app I'm selecting. So here we've been looking in the scene editor the whole time, in the script editor, but now let's look at the scene editor on the right. So here I have the ability to adjust media on screen, but when I make a selection, you'll notice that same mini menu appear right above what I'm selecting, right? If I see on the left-hand side, I can see Underlord. Again, we'll touch on Underlord in a little bit, but here I have position. Here I can adjust to like snap left, right, bottom, or fill or fit the scene editor. Here I can change the shape of my camera. So if I want to get myself into a cute little circle or drop myself in any of these other orientations, let's go back to a circle because I think that's kind of cool. Here I can replace media. Here's where I can swap out myself for another source. So if this is like my company logo or a placeholder that we'll look at in a little bit, I can swap this media out for something that's brand new, like an AI image or video generation, maybe recording something directly in or utilizing something from our stock media library. And then finally over here, we have effects and animations. Here's where I can apply effects like eye contact, which we'll look at in a moment, as well as any animations. Like if I want to make myself do a little, now that I'm a ball, 360 roll off screen. We have options for animations, either custom or keyframes there. But cool. That's all for the scene editor. Again, it's just pretty basic with like, drag and dropping elements on screen. The same way that like it's as easy to edit as a Word doc. It's as easy to edit as clicking and dragging elements around like on a PDF or like slide deck editor, right? I think we make a lot of the functions and the tool familiar to people that have used other like standard image editors. But now let's look at AI tools on the right-hand side. So here under AI tools, we have 5 major sections. You'll have some recommendations at the top, but we have the 5 major sections of editing. We have sounding good, looking good, repurposing, publishing, and writing. Each one of these features gives you a tooltip when you hover your cursor above it. So I would encourage everyone in here to look through each of these and see what fits their needs. But I'm going to give us like the greatest hits per se here real quick. So under the sound good section, sounding good can mean literally sounding good, like you're a better speaker, like pacing better. What you probably have heard from me a lot in this session is filler words, right? The word and like and all this stuff. With removing filler words, which is a feature we have here under sounding good, you can in bulk remove all the filler words in your content to get your speech sounding punchier or sounding good, right? But sound good could also mean like audio quality improvement or like the actual like effect of your voice is better. For that, we have a feature called Studio Sound. Studio Sound is a background noise reduction and vocal enhancer tool. So like if you live like myself in like, the city and you have your windows open and you hear the ambient sounds of a downtown Oakland, right? You can remove that with a single click with Studio Sound. So whether it's like the fan in your room or like my cat meowing in the bed right now or whatever, you can have the background noise removed and then human speech or vocals enhanced with a single click. So like super, super useful tool. I encourage everyone to play with that. I'll show that in practice in a little bit, but again, that's listed here under AI tools. Aaron, what's your favorite AI tool?
Man, I mean, I use Studio Sound on everything.
Yeah.
The key that I always add is it's a slider. So if you enable it and it sounds over processed, you can drag the bar down until you find what % you like. And then if you're recording on the same mic in the same room, you go, I'm a 70% kind of guy with Studio Sound.
Yeah, I think I'm in that 85 range, I believe is what I've said in the past, but yeah. But one that I like really enjoy that I want to show really quick is eye contact. So for those of you that might be doing more like narrative content or like directive content, right? Shout out Oakland, what's good? Hell yeah. O-Town. We have a new gold medal, baby. Check out the mural in the city. All right, cool. So my bad. So yeah, so here another great feature, eye contact. So eye contact for those of you that are like reading off teleprompters or reading off notes or anything like that, you have the ability for Underlord or our AI to snap your eyes to camera as so it doesn't look like you're reading off the screen. So in this case, I am reading off of a teleprompter off screen and it snapped my eyes directly to camera. It works super well even with glasses and like kind of avoiding lens flare. But I would say everyone give that a try. That's one of my favorite features. Studio sound for me is always on top. I think studio sound is my favorite feature. But like eye contact is an extremely close second. So I would say if you haven't already given it a try, please do. Here under the other sections, we have some other cool ones like creating clips or translation. And then here towards the bottom for publish and write, these are really good for like rewriting your script if you're just at the beginning of something or helping you finalize, the YouTube description for your video. While I'm a good public speaker, I'm not a great writer. So I really love the publish section as some assistance there. But cool. Anything else that I should touch on there before we take a peek at like scenes and layout packs so we can kind of see some more visual adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, there's a help center article on each of those. So if you want a more in-depth version, I like the Marcelo method. Just open it, hover your mouse, and it'll give you a tooltip. But if you'd like to see, a full article on what each of those does, my other favorites create clips for sure. And I know in the chat we have some people that are trying to create clips from long form recordings and videos, and that's probably my most used tool after Studio Sound.
Yeah, I think we actually run this feature to make clips from these webinars. So I'm sure someone will be running this on this recording later on.
And by someone, you mean us.
Yeah, like literally probably you, me, or shout out Trevor or Fiona. But yeah, so one cool thing that's like going to lead us into like scenes and layouts is like here under the create clips tab, you'll notice that there's the ability to create a number of clips, duration of clips, but then here it calls out a feature called layouts. You might be asking what layouts are. Layouts are like visual templates that we use in Descript, right? So I was looking earlier at like this text selection and how I can like manipulate a section manually, right? Here I also saw on screen what I called the scene editor. Let's talk about like, again, scenes and layouts. So like in the script, there's these little thumbnails that you've been seeing. Each of these denotes a new scene. Think of a scene as like a slide in a deck, right? And I can progress through the slides or each of these thumbnails and change the visuals on screen. So like this scene or slide has me in a circle with captions and like the title of my show. This scene has me like now in a square with the captions. This scene contains the company logo and so on, right? So each scene being the next chapter or, like slide in my deck, right? Now a layout is the visual template that we can apply to a scene, right? So like this layout is a camera layout that has me framed in this way. This layout is a media layout because it contains like a screenshot or a still piece of media, right? But each layout can be applied to each scene, like one layout to one scene, and that layout can be saved and used in other projects. So here I can, like in this layout, right, I have a zoom, but let's say I want to change this to a layout that might have some more B-roll, right? Here I'm talking about editing. So if I click the B-roll overlay layout, now I have this image, like the framing of myself here on screen, as well as a placeholder media here for me to drop like B-roll or an AI generated image, anything along those lines. So the real power of utilizing Descript is comes in from like utilizing together AI tools, scenes and layouts, and text-based editing to get like even that more manual step in. But with that, again, we can quickly add in new scenes by clicking the / on our keyboard to introduce a new scene. And then as soon as I introduce that new scene, right above the thumbnail for that scene is where I can adjust the layout as well as the transition or animation in and out of that scene. So if I click layout, again, I can change to B-roll with a different framing, right? So now I have the ability to change from the Descript logo here to now a different piece of media. And let's just pull from like our stock media library or something. I'm talking about this field now, boom. And then here, let's pull another from our stock media library. And now I'm talking about this field. because I'm really in the mood to go on a walk right after this. So we're talking about fields. But cool. All right, and then now just to play back, like very quickly, I'm changing the layout and I'm adding visuals from these placeholders in Phrase. So
Now you might be wondering, why would we choose Descript, Marcelo? Descript isn't just another recording tool. It's an editing platform that's transforming the way that people handle audio and video editing.
what I'm trying to show is that you'll feel like you're floating above a river if you use Descript, because that's how easy it is to use. That's what this video is showing. But yeah. But anyway, that's again like utilization of scenes and layouts. Now, if I wanted to say, let's say I wanted to save this layout or like this framing for another use, what I can do is I can right click the thumbnail in my script area. And below right here, I have the ability to save the scene as a new layout. So here I can click save scene as new layout. And now I have the ability to name this, like, I don't know, drone footage. And then label this as like a media source. And then a recent update we made to our layout saving is that you can make specific layers placeholders. So here, I might not always want to use this kind of like drone style footage, right? I can save this as a placeholder so that next time I apply this layout, I can, just like I did before, add media from the stock library of a different field or of the subject matter that I'm talking about, whether it's, you know, like the ad reel that I'm walking through or the product demonstration that I'm making. But again, like I hope this is showing how like the power of layouts and scenes together really helps you like frame things quickly. And as we saw, there's smart transitions or animations on screen that automatically move things in place. But yeah,
Yeah.
any thoughts on scenes?
Yeah, one of the things that jumps out to people is when you changed how you wanted that scene arranged, it does not affect all the other ones because you put the / that is the scene boundary. It's only going to apply there, and you can keep all the other ones. One of my favorite tricks is copy and pasting layouts across scenes, because sometimes I don't want to save it as a layout for future projects, but within the one project.
Yeah, here if you right click the thumbnail, you have the ability to change the layout from here, copy or paste the layout, reset it to scratch, right? So I'll just remove everything I've done so far, or merge it with the scene above or below, or like kind of like removing that boundary and making it look like the scene that happened before or after. But yeah, there's a lot of options with scenes. One thing to note as well that you'll notice is when I'm selecting something in the scene editor, right below what I've selected, I have the ability to adjust it for just the current scene or all scenes. So if you remember earlier, when I changed the shape of myself from a square to a circle, I only did that on the current scene. That allows me to then have this next scene as a square, right? So I can like have that change in some frequency if I so choose.
Do you want to hit a couple of layout questions while we're on it, or do you want to keep going?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, how about this great question from Chrissy on YouTube? Can you do a scene where it's just all B-roll instead of a split screen or an overlay?
Absolutely, right? So like here, I have me with the Descript logo, I have me with a field, and then back to me with another field, right? Let's say in this scene, I just want the field. I don't want to see myself, but I still want to hear myself. So I'll click, there's a couple of entry methods here, but here I can click the layout below the scene editor, or if I click on the thumbnail, I can click the layout that appears above. If I click here, now I'll see a full list of all the layouts I have. If I want to, I can scroll down and I can see all of them, or I can search by name. So I know I want B-roll, and here are all the layouts with B-roll. Some have a camera framing, some have 2 camera framing, kind of like me and Aaron here, but some have full B-roll or multiple B-roll frames. Here, if I put B-roll boxed, it's now going to remove me, but keep the B-roll. And if I play this back, it will contain still my audio, but just show the B-roll on screen. Let's see what that looks like.
Whether you're a seasoned editor or just starting out with recording, Descript is as easy as whatever is easiest for you. Now you might be wondering, why would we choose Descript, Marcelo? Descript isn't just another recording tool. It's an editing platform that's transforming the way.
I'm looking at these fields. I'm getting ready for a bike ride later. Let's go. All right. But yeah, that's a really good question. And I hope it shows it's extremely easy to adjust one layout to another, and just like you either utilize the default ones that Descript has as a starting off point, or you can make them from scratch and like, remove a specific camera layer.
Yeah, let's do a couple more of these because we got a lot of awesome questions. Mariette on LinkedIn. So we talk about this all the time with analogies. What does a scene mean? What does that do when you push the / key? Marcelo, what's your favorite analogy to visualize what a scene is?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, and I'll repeat here because I think that like the way that I've made the most sense of scenes is again like chapters or slides, right? It's a scene contains multiple pieces of media for a set period of time. This first scene contains one purple square, me, captions, and text with a black background. That's the scene, the container of media, right? And this scene exists for a certain number of seconds. Then the following scene has a different container of media, right? Again, a slide in my slide deck, if I'm making a PowerPoint slide, there's some media that exists on the slide that all might animate. But when I go to the next slide, it's the next bit of info. So at least for my Marcelo brain, that's been the easiest way to analogize it. But again, you could think of like chapters, right? A bunch of thoughts in one area, a page in a book, you flip it, there's a whole new set of contents that is different from the prior page, that kind of vibe. But it is not a background. It is a container, and one of the elements inside of a scene is a background, but it is not a background in itself.
Yeah, and one more great scene question from Eric on YouTube. How do you adjust? Say you want the scene to be longer or shorter from where you initially put in the /.
Yeah. So under the properties tab, there you can see here scene duration. You have the ability to control the duration of the scene here, or if you wanted to, you can just drag the scene boundary that happens afterwards. So like this scene starts here and persists until this next scene boundary, right? If I wanted to, I can click and drag this around because like here, this next scene, this scene happens in the middle of my sentence, right? That's kind of awkward. Let's say I want this to now, the scene happened like at the end of this sentence, right? So I can just click and drag that, and now I've extended the duration. You can see even here, the duration is extended of that first scene by moving the start of the following scene. With Descript, there's like multiple roads that lead to Rome, right? So like there's a couple different ways to achieve the same task, but you do have the ability to adjust the length of the scene in multiple ways. But just think again, since the scene is like, a certain duration, like you are moving something else or introducing a new scene to change the duration of one.
Okay, one more scene and layout because we got a lot of people on LinkedIn today. Can you do a layout so the only thing visually on screen is text?
Okay, this is my favorite thing to do because I actually just demoed this earlier. But there's this one sentence here where I say, whether you're a seasoned editor or just starting out with Descript or just starting out with recording, Descript is as easy to edit. Descript is as easy as whatever is easiest for you, right? I want like this to be on screen as like a quote that's like super zazzy. It's like, whoa, oh my gosh, that was a good one, Marcelo. So I make this selection, right? And then here I can click change layout. Now I have my list of layouts and I want text only. So let's just look text. Here's a text overlay, but that's not what I want. I probably want like a quote, I think is the terminology we use. Yep, perfect. Here. So here's a couple of quote captions. Again, like the B-roll, some have cameras as like a side element and some are just straight up quote. I think this one with text appearing on screen is solid. So I'll click quote here. And then here I can adjust the text to show just captions. I don't want a Bono quote. I instead want like my captions on screen.
Starting out with recording, Descript is as easy as whatever is easiest for you.
So again, I can have a quote, captions, title, chapter title, anything like that. But we have a full library of ones, and I would encourage everyone to check these out. And one last thing to show as well, I've been showing like one layout pack this whole time. We've looked at layouts, but like a layout pack is a container of a lot of layouts. Here's your webinar bingo card. I'm going to say Helsinki Blueberry, but here's my favorite layout pack is Helsinki Blueberry. That's just one I use all the time. But we have a lot of other layout packs to utilize. There's Descript Default, Medium, Berlin Carrot, another Marcelo favorite. But all of these you can explore and see what works for you. There's going to be a text, captions, B-roll styles in each one, but each is going to be slightly differently framed to fit this like general style. So I would say same way that I said with AI tools, look through each, go to layout packs and see what fits your brand or like your vibe the most. again, check out Berlin Carrot Dark and Helsinki Blueberry Dark. Those are really cool stylistically. That's just a Marcelo note.
Yep. And Michael had some good feedback there. He's a power user, but didn't know you could just drag that scene boundary in the transcript. That's Marcelo's always shown us new ways to use our own app. So we feel that.
You gotta try everything once or twice. There was one day I was like, I wonder if you can do that. And I clicked and dragged it. And I asked the engineer, I was like, can you do that? And they were like, I have no idea. And I'm glad you tried that. And I said, hell yeah.
Yep. And you can always Command Z if you mess something up. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's just to show really quick as well, like the two things before I show a couple of like sharing collab pieces. There's, like I said earlier, there's multiple roads that lead to Rome. You can click Command Z on your keyboard. There's an undo button here. You can also, you can also go to the version history tool here under File and Version History. That allows you to like revert back to a prior version. Let's see, hold on.
I'll move us off the menu there.
Very good. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, here on the right hand side, you have version history. So like if you were like, oh my gosh, I went really crazy this morning on my 15 cups of coffee and I thought I was an editing pro and I looked back and that's not great, Marcelo. Not that happened to me. Not that it happened to me today or anything, but if it did, you could always go back here to prior versions and then view and then restore the prior iteration of the project if you need to. Yeah. Cool.
All right. You want some more questions or you want to finish up the tour?
Yeah, if we have other like questions in the same range, let me know. I did just want to show like translation because I really like that feature because I was a Marcelo feature request for like 2 years and I'm glad we have that. And then just showing like sharing and exporting to get it out of Descript once we're done with editing.
Let's do it.
Hit it. All right, cool. So on the right-hand side here, under AI tools, I just wanted to show translate. Under repurpose is this translate tab. So here, if I click on translate, we have the ability to translate my voice and my on-screen captions to other languages. I showed earlier the repurpose tool, which allowed me to change like what was said with my own voice. But here I can also have myself speak other languages with my AI voice. So here I want to translate to, let's say, French. Where's French? Let's do Canadian and French. We'll do Brazil and Portugal, Portuguese, and Spain and Mexico, Spanish. Here under style, we have the ability to match either the timing or the direct translation. For those of you that have translated or localized content ever, you'll understand that sometimes you'll either have the like general idea translated or a word for word direct translation. So here you have the ability to, for more direct translation, again, it prioritizes the original meaning of the content or match timing. Again, when you translate, sometimes the pacing of speech is varied between languages. I know specifically between English and French, it usually takes longer period of time to speak the same sentence in French if you are doing like a direct translation. So we have the option for match timing to make sure that the pacing of the AI speech isn't much faster or slower than the original as well. So you have the ability to select which one of the two here. And then again, we have dub speech. I'll use my AI voice to dub. And then we also have a lip sync video feature. This also allows you to adjust or like change the lip movement so that it matches the translation. That takes a second to do, so I'm going to ignore that for the moment. But again, that's available for y'all if you wanted to give that a try in your accounts. Once that is in the middle of translation, on the left-hand side here, I'm going to see my translated text appear as that's being finalized. On the top left of my screen is where I have all of the languages that I translated to. So at the top, I have my original. So I can always go back to my original and see the content there. But here, once they're finished loading, we'll preview these. But here are all the additional languages that I translated to. At the very bottom, I also have the ability to do a new translation. So I can translate to new languages if I forgot one in my first selection. Cool. I just wanted to share that because I think that feature is important. All right. And then lastly, let's talk about how we can get this out of Descript, right? We've made all these edits. We've used scenes and layouts. We've translated to 15 languages. We've done AI tools and corrections. We've made a bunch of clips with our repurpose tool. How do we get this out of Descript? So on the top right of our screen, we have export. Export can take us out to multiple destinations. Number one, video. Here I can export my video raw straight to either a Descript hosted web link. Descript has the ability for us to host a page, kind of like a Vimeo or even a private YouTube channel or private YouTube page, where you can post the link or host your video on Descript. This will show the full transcription, and you can have commenting and visibility on that page as well. But also we have the ability to go to either YouTube or any of our publishing partners. There's even options for Google Drive here if you wanted to export to anywhere specific. And then also finally local export, so saving it directly to your computer. By selecting local export, you have some different options than the web version. So like a published page is going to have some slightly different settings than local. But if I select local export, here I can name the file. I can choose what I'm exporting. Depending on your plan level, you have the ability to export all compositions or some specifics here. You have the ability to set your resolution. Here is if you recorded in 4K, you have the option to upscale that to 4K. And then here you have advanced. So if you need to embed any metadata or have anything specific here when you're exporting. And then finally here you have the language as well. So if I wanted to export in multiple languages or at one specific language that I translated to, I can do so. The same thing carries over for audio. So I have options to do a web link or local files as well as any of the published partners. And then again, under the advanced menu, I have for more specifics for depending on where you're publishing your content, you might need to have some advanced settings enabled. So here's where you can find those advanced settings. For those of you that are using Descript like as part of your workflow, we also have timeline exports. Timeline export allows you to go from Descript to other tools like a Premiere Pro or a Pro Tools, maybe even a Final Cut or a Logic Pro if you're doing any like end-to-end editing. And then finally, because we spent all this time editing our script and our transcript, we also have straight up text export or subtitle export. For some websites like LinkedIn, they'll automatically generate closed captions. But we spent a lot of time creating or editing the captions here in Descript. So you can override their automatic captioning and download an SRT or VTT file here, and then import that to LinkedIn or YouTube to make sure that the captions are correct after spending a bunch of time correcting them here in Descript. And then finally, if you need to hand off a paper edit, you can absolutely do so by doing a text export here.
Yeah, and everybody knows the YouTube auto captions are terrible, especially with names or your company or acronyms.
1000%.
So you might as well use your SRTs that you made from your project.
Cool. I see we have on here a couple of questions. One is, can you discuss green screen? Absolutely. So earlier, I mentioned when you selected on something like in the scene editor, if you make a selection, you have the ability to show effects and animations above what you're selecting. If I click on effects, under effects, we have the ability to enable green screen. Green screen in Descript works like all other green screen tools. If I click on green screen here, it will remove my background. My background here is purple, so it should remove that, and like I would be in an all black background. I can also replace that with other backgrounds as well. So like once the green screen has taken effect, here I'm removed entirely, and I could put myself like in our commercial at the beginning in the cold void of outer space. But yeah, I have the ability to control green screen from the effects tab above what I'm selecting, or on the right hand side, there's the properties panel. Here under properties, I can see all the properties of whatever I'm selecting, and I can add properties to it, such as a visual or audio effect. And again, under visual effect is where we'll find green screen.
Yeah, I love that for screen recordings because sometimes your background from the camera feed does not add anything to the video, and it can just be you over your screen. So that's a great one. And you don't need a real green screen. It can just do it virtually like you would on Zoom or any of your other video tools.
Yeah, this is by no means a green screen. This is like a purple piece of paper in our office that we had as a backdrop. So you can put yourself really anywhere. I do really like that purple though, so I keep that.
Okay, you ready to rapid fire some questions? Because we have tons of them in the chat.
Hate me, I'm on a roll. Let's go.
Okay, Vince the Voice on YouTube. Love the alliteration there, Vince. What about aspect ratios? What if I don't want 16:9 widescreen?
Great question. So there's a couple of different ways to change the aspect ratio. Manually, on the top left of our scene editor, we have the ability to change to some standard aspect ratios. If I click other here, I can also adjust both frame rate and like any specifics I want for aspect ratio. Additionally, one easier way to handle this would be utilizing layouts that have the aspect ratio you desire already preset. So in this video, right, I'm in landscape. But let's say I wanted to go to a different aspect ratio. If I click on layout and I change the layout, here I can choose layouts of one specific aspect ratio. Earlier, I showed that we can search for layouts that like our text or our B-roll. But here I can also search for all of them that are of one aspect ratio. And with one click, I'm able to adjust the video to now be reframed in a different aspect ratio. The same kind of thing happens automatically when I take a landscape video and I run create clips. As long as I'm selecting a layout that is of the aspect ratio I desire, it's going to create a bunch of clips with that set aspect ratio. But again, that is where the power of layouts is like if you have a layout that has like your company logo on the bottom left is framed in one aspect ratio and has captions on screen, something you know you're going to have all the time, right? You can very quickly take a long form webinar such as this, apply one layout and have a TikTok clip created pretty much instantly. But yeah.
Yeah. And just for my own curiosity, if you're a person who uses 1-to-1 aspect ratio, square video, can you put in the chat, where do you put that? What platform does that go on? How are you using 1-to-1 video?
Is that only LinkedIn, right? Because like that was Instagram, but I don't even think Instagram does. I don't think they allow square anymore, do they?
No, I think it has to be portrait, but
That's
there are uses
It's
and
the
people
future.
ask all the time. Just
Yeah.
for my own curiosity, I'd love to know what's the
I've seen a lot of
square
people-
video.
Yeah, I've seen people do it like stylistically in MySpace, but like or not on MySpace, but in MySpace, like in my circles. Wow, we should bring back square 1-1 portrait 1-1 for MySpace. Anyway, so what's up? Next one.
Yes. How about this? Let's go. Not a stupid question, a great question from Jeremy on YouTube. When should somebody use the Descript app? They're on a Mac versus be in your web browser.
Yeah, so this is a really good question, and like I have a lot of feelings about this because like I've been an audio engineer for like a minute and done video editing for a while, and I started when you had to put a CD in your computer and download the software, right? Which is like feels like 1,000 years ago. So I never really thought there could be a world where I would do the type of like intensive editing that I do on a web app, right? For the longest time, I would have said only use desktop applications for media editing if you're a real editor, right? Like if you want the power behind it. But I don't think that's really the case anymore with Descript. I think the only time really that I would say that I prefer using the desktop version of Descript is for screen recording specifically, because I think the UI is better for just like for me as a user, right? But the good thing with us being a web tool is that the functionality and the performance should be the same. One for one, like plus or minus some UI elements, but the functionality is the same across the desktop and the web version. But again, just me as a Marcelo thing, I don't think this is like on our help center, but like as a Marcelo thing, like I like the screen recorder on desktop, but everything I've shown today is the web version. I've been in the web the whole time, and every webinar that I've ran, like alongside Aaron for the past, I don't know how long, has been on the web version, because I like the fact that I have been proven wrong and like can use a web tool for everything front to back. Every enterprise customer I talk to and every webinar I run has been on web. So like I have a lot of faith in that. But again, like for screen recording, I just think it looks cooler when I use the desktop version. So it's like anyway, long answer. It's the same thing, I promise. And if it's not the same thing, there's ways you can contact our support team and flag us of any irregularities, but they should perform the same.
Yes. I think YouTube export is only on browser based. Is that still correct?
Let me confirm that as we're doing this, but I don't think so. Like it should be the same. Like the export option should be the same across. Let me confirm that as we take this next question, but it should be the same.
Yeah. Let's find. There's tons of questions here. We got a lot of what you're using your 1-to-1 videos for. So thank you. It sounds like e-commerce and ads is what we're hearing in the chat. So I appreciate that.
And confirms you can go to YouTube from the desktop version.
Nice. Okay.
Cool.
Then I don't have any for the why use one over the other. Some good feedback from Michael.
Seriously, this stream has probably saved me hours of asking Underlord how to do things. Thank you. Hell yeah. Anytime. That's what they keep me around for. If you have more questions, I'm sure we'll plug it, but come to the Discord office hours later. I'll answer more.
Yeah. So while we're on the YouTube question, if
Mhm.
I export my video from Descript straight to YouTube, does the SRT go with it, or do I have to grab that separately?
Yeah, so it does not it will automatically have the embedded captions in there, right? So like when you export a file with Descript, there's embedded captions automatically from the transcription on the left hand side. So YouTube should pick that up in the YouTube export here specifically. If you were to download it as a local file and then re-upload, I do not believe it would keep. But exporting from here should. Please, anyone on the support team, if you're in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it should carry here. But again, downloading locally and then re-uploading would lose that, and you wouldn't need to utilize the SRT or VTT.
Yep. And I mean, one of the other ones I think is really valuable is just the transcript, especially if you're doing a meeting or a demo or a podcast, to be able to get markdown or plain text, and it labels who's talking and timestamps. You can export that locally and do all sorts of things with that.
I've done it a couple of times where I've like kind of talked at my computer and done like a text export, and then like given that to Underlord and been like, hey, how could I make this punchy? Like how could I make this make more sense? Because I'm just talking. But
yeah, I think that's the best repurposing medium for podcasters. If you're a podcaster, what are you doing with the transcript afterwards besides just putting it out on your podcast platforms?
Mhm.
One to clarify, good question from Aged Care Gurus on YouTube. Mobile is not officially supported. So for doing
That is absolutely correct.
videos on an iPad or a mobile device, it's Mac OS and Windows for now.
Yeah. This is a common misconception. Just because something is web-based does not mean it is multi-device based, right? A website that is geared for a desktop Chromium is not the same as something geared for a mobile site. Think about like our website, Descript.com, right? Not even like the tool, but like going to the website, right? The way that it's formatted for mobile to desktop is entirely different. We have a web-based tool, but that does not mean we have a mobile tool. The common misconception, but yeah. We're getting there someday.
Yes. How about this one from YouTube? Penny asks if Descript would be good for creating travel videos that include hundreds of photos.
I'm excited because I'm doing this because like on Monday I just got back from like a 2-week trip to Brazil. Shout out my in-laws who I saw in Brazil. But yeah, like just got back and I'm doing this kind of content. I think Descript works really, really well with like narrative content. So like the thing is that I have a talk track, like talking about my vacation, about the time I had, and like describing the photos and videos. But I dropped in probably like 35 to 40 videos and then like 150 images, and had Underlord like organize them in some way, shape, or form while I did a talk track over. So yeah, I would say don't try to make like Nat Geo stuff, but I'm having a really good time doing like a trip overview of the like 12 boats that I hung out on. Shout out Brazil. Everyone should go there. Anyway.
Yes. How about this? Since we're talking about browser versus web versus desktop app, Chaco on YouTube wants to know if there's a better or worse browser to use.
Absolutely. Please use Google Chrome. For rooms, we work okay with like Safari and for Firefox, but like we develop it on Google Chrome/Chromium, so it is best to utilize Google Chrome if possible, and if not, other Chromium-based browsers. But please utilize Chrome, please. Or download the desktop version. That's totally possible as well.
Yeah, which means your operating system, as long as you can get a Chromium-based browser, you can work in it. So you just may not have a dedicated desktop app like for Linux. Okay, how about what if I love cheese? Which, by the way, I do too. So love the handle. If you have motion graphics, can you import motion graphics you made somewhere else into a Descript project?
Totally, yeah. So like the two things I would do, right, are two ways to accomplish this. One, just like drag and drop the motion graphic into Descript, right? We can import a file here, drag and drop in, yada yada. Or if you're going to use that motion graphic all the time, utilize our new media library feature. From the drive view on the left-hand side, if you click on media library, you can drop in files into this media library that will be used across multiple projects. So if you're doing an like one animation that you're only going to use it one time, you can just click and drag it into here. And if you're going to be using it persistently, you can save it in your media library. And then from here, you can call files from the media library into new projects at all the time. So again, you're reusing it, media library. If not, just drag and drop it in. Shout out, I love cheese. Sick username. 10 out of 10. Super solid.
Yeah. And then as we are wrapping up here, we've got a couple of questions throughout the chat about when you were regenerating with your AI voice. I don't know if you can show it, but could we just explain what that consent clip process entails?
Yeah, so for me to make my AI voice, I had to go here to my main drive view, and on the left-hand side, there's a speakers button. Here under speakers is where I can see that I have like access to one of my coworkers' voices and then like my voice. But here on the top right of the screen, if I click new speaker, here I'll name the speaker. Let's do Marcelo V like 1000. Create voice. And then here I can click create at the bottom. If I choose an avatar here, let's just do like me. This is what I look like, this guy. Boom, create. And then here I've created a new speaker, and then I would read that consent statement. So here's my consent statement. I can choose to like change this picture or like have a picture of me actually uploaded, but the consent statement I need to read is this one here for my voice to be created. I have my microphone selection here. If I record it outside of the script, I can upload this here, but like the only way an AI voice can be generated is with this script being read.
Yep. So a recording of someone else who's saying any other words is not going to work, and they're not going to be able to just clone your voice because they pulled it off a Zoom call or YouTube recording.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I can't take Aaron's voice and mush it together to be able to to have him say something like Marcelo is so tall and cool and handsome. Even though I know he thinks that.
Okay, can we do one last question about compositions? Because we didn't really get into those.
Yeah. Here, let's demo how to add. So the question is, can you please demo how to add a new composition to begin after the previous one ends, assuming composition is how to collect multiple takes? This is a misunderstanding potentially of the word composition. So I think just to clarify, compositions are different ways to organize media. I think here we're talking about chapters, maybe, is how they're being perceived. But a composition is just a different way to visualize the same media. I have one file of me like recorded here, right? And this file is used across multiple compositions. So the composition is just like the organization of media in like of those files, but it's not like take one, take two. The composition can contain take one and take two, but if I wanted to have like the next take, or if there's like a good or bad take, I can combine those recordings of those multiple takes in one composition. But one composition that isn't played after another. A composition is an independent collection of media.
Yep. And then just to wrap up the AI voice, if you have a client that's not in Descript, you can send them that consent statement that Marcelo had on screen, record it on their phone or whatever device, and then you can just upload that instead of having to be in-app and doing it live. So shout out to Aged Care Gurus. That is exactly how you could do that if it was a client's voice that you're using.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up. We know there were lots of other questions, and the chat was popping across, like, especially LinkedIn today, which was great to see. But here are some things that might help you answer a question if we didn't get to it. We also record the comments. So that doesn't mean we didn't see it. We just may not have had time to get it to Marcelo, because don't forget, he was only 4 cups of coffee into his day, and he would have had to have like 24 to get through all of them. But learn Descript.
I can talk faster friend. Next time. Just kidding.
Yeah. Learn Descript is your friend. There's probably going to be a screenshot and a step-by-step article that explains something you had a question about, like translation, AI voices, avatars, etc. There's also lots of other places to get help live. So Discord office hours, if you want to hang, that's going to start here in about an hour. Jump into our Discord, and there's a live events channel. Marcelo's the host. Trevor, shout out Trevor, support for helping in the chat today. He's usually in there. Myself, Gabe. It's more of a hangout than it is a formal thing.
Totally.
Support is also live on Tuesdays, and you can jump on our YouTube channel. and you can ask questions that are more troubleshooting oriented, or if you're having issues. We also have all of our webinars scheduled. So you can just look ahead and say, hey, that one sounds really interesting. I want to sign up. And there's a Luma page. It's free. We'll email it to you like the morning that it starts. Our other ask is just some feedback. So you'll see some QR codes on the screen. And I'm pretty sure the one on the top left is the 3-question feedback form to help us know how we did today and what you would like to see from future webinars, because we're always doing different ones and different topics, largely based on our community's input, not what Marcelo feels like doing. And then the QR code on the bottom with the logo in the middle is going to be where you can see the rest of our webinars. So I'll give you 30 seconds there to scan those. Also, if you missed anything, people were asking in the chat, when can I see the recording? It's going to be on YouTube in minutes. It's also going to get emailed out later. So you'll get a direct link through your email if you don't want to go search us up on YouTube, but you should go watch some Ramdy videos on our YouTube channel because they're cool. And finally, we really appreciate your time and your attention. That's always your most valuable asset. You had a lot of things you could be doing on a Wednesday afternoon, but you chose to spend them with Marcelo and I. You chose to get better at creating videos and making clips and whatever brought you here. So we appreciate you and can't wait to see what you make. If you put stuff on socials, tag us so we can give you nice comments and tell you your video looks awesome. Yes. Well, Marcelo, thank you for joining and emceeing today.
My pleasure.
Take your little break between now and being live in Discord. If you want to hang out with Marcelo, now you know where to find him in T-minus 53 minutes.
See you all there shortly.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.